Welcome to the No Bull Political Arena with your hosts, Sophia Nelson, Bill O'Reilly, Brian Mistro, and TJ McCormick. It's real voices, raw politics, and no bullshit. Hello, everybody. It's Brian Mistro, and once again, you're going to get me unleashed on the political arena. As you know, if you've watched this show when it's just me, I don't hold anything back. So we're going to have a lot of fun with the show tonight. We're going to talk about some really crazy stuff that's happening. But before I do, let me share some good news. We are retooling a lot of what we're doing on our programs. We are growing. As a matter of fact, I think we are scaling up quickly. And both this show and some other shows will be adding folks to them. We are going to be adding some shows. And with a lot of folks that you may have seen on major networks, perhaps folks that you followed on that have very large followings on social media, and so forth. So we're very excited about it. It's another example of what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and bring you the news and other programming, both political and non-political, right up front. So tonight you do get me, and I'm broadcasting from the USS Minnow from the Redneck Yacht Club. So, as always, grab yourself an adult beverage and let's have a little fun with it. Okay, the first topic, the Iran war. Well, let me just read you the slide first. Quote, the New York Times reports that President Donald Trump has now, or has for now, paused plans to significantly expand U.S. strikes against Iran after senior military leaders warned that doing so could dangerously deplete Patriot interceptor and other air defense missile stockpiles needed to protect U.S. forces in the Middle East. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump to another slide here. Again, for those that are just listening and may not be watching this, quote, this is from Senator Lieu, we need a massive change in defense strategy. In less than 5 months, against a second-rate military, the United States has used up half of all Patriot and THAAD missiles. U.S. only makes 50 Patriot and 8 THAAD missiles a month. Russia and China will outlast us in future wars unless we change. Oh, shit. Okay. If you remember, and I've said this many times, so this is going to be more for people that have not watched me on different shows or even on this show in the past, going back to the very beginning of the Iran war. Actually, I'm going to go further back to when we bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. I was for us launching the attacks on the nuclear facilities because it was short, it was specific on what we would capture, it made sense from a military standpoint, and certainly Iran was in one of the weakest positions they'd ever been. When we went to war with Iran, I was very clear I'm against it. Not because of what we were doing, but because of who was going to be doing it, and that was Donald Trump. The first mission to take out the nuclear facilities was, for all practical purposes, a straight military operation. It was very short, very specific, and something they gamed out for who knows how many years in the military. To go to war with Iran, which is what he's done, actually requires a whole lot of strategic thinking, something that Donald Trump sucks at. So Donald Trump's idea of strategic foresight is the time between a tweet and a golf swing. And that has never been more apparent than right now. And since Donald Trump, for the most part, puts around him yes men that will never push back. Pete Hegseth, folks that should not even be in that job. Of course, we're sitting here, 6 months into a war. And by the way, not dropping bombs that whole 6 months, but 6 months into a war where we can't even continue operations because we don't have an ability to protect our troops and allies with defensive missiles. Are you fucking kidding me? Who would have ever thought? Who did the planning on this? Who thought through, okay, this is what's going to happen. They're going to shut the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Who thought through this? Because I'll tell you what, it sure does look like it was an idiotic move, jammed through by a president who has zero strategic thinking, and followed through by a Secretary of Defense, War, a Secretary of War that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And here we are, finding ourselves once again in this terrible place. Congratulations, Donald Trump. For once, you've actually made the United States look like it's very, very weak. So I want to share one more slide here, and this is going back again a little bit deeper into the war. Quote, and this is from Axios. The top U.S. military commander in the Middle East, Admiral Brad Cooper, recommended stopping the bombing campaign around the Strait of Hormuz because it has reached the limits of its effectiveness. Well, again, this goes back to what I was saying just a minute ago. There was no planning put in place for contingencies. There is a limit to how much you can achieve in bombing. Look at the Vietnam War. Look at the Korean War. Look at the Afghanistan War. There's a good one. Look at Iraq. There's only so much that you can accomplish by dropping bombs. It's very effective if you have one specific target, aka a nuclear facility. It's not so effective when you think you're going to overthrow a regime without a single boot on the ground by dropping bombs on them. In fact, I don't think that's ever happened. Certainly not since World War II. We didn't win the Korean War by just dropping bombs. We put troop boots on the ground. We certainly didn't win the Vietnam War, and we had a truckload of boots on the ground, so you can bet that bombing wasn't going to win it. Afghanistan, are you kidding me? Did you see how we got out of there? That was boots on the ground. We couldn't just accomplish it through a bombing escapade. Iraq, and now Iran. It's the same damn thing over and over. And this isn't just all on Donald Trump. Well, let me rephrase that. This one is all on Donald Trump. But we've repeatedly seen in past wars that political leaders push us into positions or put our very, very excellent military into positions to solve things that you just can't solve with bombs alone. At the end of the day, there has to be some type of a negotiated treaty or negotiated agreement. Or the other option is if you don't have that, then there's nobody left to negotiate with. So, as that's not really a possibility, you would think that the Trump administration would have a plan in place to try to mitigate the damage and come out of this with at least something of less than a complete black eye. But it doesn't appear to be happening because what has happened is Donald Trump has painted himself into a corner. How many times have you heard me say, how many times did I say on this program, this is what he's going to do, and this is what's going to happen, and this is where we're at now. So I've said that several times, so once again, this is where we're at now. He has painted himself in a corner. He's stepped into a bucket of shit that he can't get out of. See, because if he withdraws and quits dropping all the bombs, Iran wins. They control the Strait of Hormuz. They will be seen as the power force, the force in the Middle East. Other countries around the world will see the weakness of the United States and realize if they can just outstand some bombing attacks, they're going to be okay. The other side of it is to go full out war with Iran. I'm talking about a full out invasion is his other option. That's where you go in there. That's boots on the ground. That's Afghanistan. That's Iraq. Um, and other than the fact that it is incredibly and would be incredibly unpopular at home, we'd lose a whole lot of troops. It would be a very long, bloody war because you can't just go in there and beat them. You're going to have an insurgency, just like Iraq, just like Afghanistan. And if they'd have done any planning whatsoever, political planning, I'm not blaming our military on this. Military does what they're told to do. They provide opinions and options. The President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense, War, who, by the way, is obviously not very good at war, but the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, takes those recommendations and they work in a group to try to come up with what would make the best plan, right? I mean, that's how it works. That's how it should work. That's not what happens when you've got somebody as the Secretary of War that has no fucking idea what he's doing. And his boss, the President of the United States, has even less of an idea what he's doing. And if there's one thing that we've seen, short of Donald Trump having the longest attention span ever on the 2020 election, everything else that he looks at, his attention span is about that big. As I said, the time between a tweet or a golf swing. So let's move on to something else. Now that I have beat up Donald Trump and his absurdly ridiculous, embarrassing Secretary of Defense and War, frankly, pretty much his entire damn administration outside of Rubio. I want to read to you the blue MAGA movement that's happening right now on the left, and this is for the Democrats. So let me just go ahead and quote it. Quote, the DSA co-chair, that's the Democrat Socialists of America co-chair, Megan Romer, was asked by Fox News Sunday if the platform proposals are accurate. So let me read these. This is what the DSA believes. Abolish the Senate? True. Replace the presidency and the Supreme Court as we know it? Yep. Abolish ICE? Absolutely. Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone in the U.S. illegally? As a long-term plan, yep. Defund the Pentagon? Absolutely. Abolish prisons as part of a long-term plan? Yep. I... I'm going to highlight these again. So the DSA, and I'm not talking about some weirdo out there in the DSA. The DSA wants to abolish the Senate, replace the presidency and the Supreme Court with what? Who the hell knows? Abolish ICE, give amnesty to anyone in the U.S. illegally, defund the Pentagon, the entire Pentagon, and abolish prisons. I thought MAGA was dumb. This is crazy. You know, and I realize that the DSA folks that are part of the Democratic Party, they're not really part of the Democratic Party. They're a fringe knuckleheads, and there's probably just a handful of them. Okay, and I've seen repeatedly on social media, even by prominent accounts, very large accounts, calling these people out for lunacy and stupidity and so forth. I'm talking about, again, Democrats calling them out, not Republicans. The Republicans are loving this shit. Oh man, they're reading this stuff out like crazy because, you know why? They're reading this stuff out and they're like, we were going to get our asses kicked in the midterms. Now, all we got to do is let the DSA pretend they're part of the Democratic Party and go off and talk about defunding the Pentagon, abolishing the police, abolishing prisons, getting rid of the United States Senate, and everybody gets a golden, beautiful unicorn that shits rainbows. And they'll win elections on this. I guarantee you they will. It is that bad. I mean, I'd like to say that's communism. It's not even communism. That's just batshit nuttery. And every Republican will pin every single Democrat, no matter how centrist they are, no matter how many times they call this shit out. They're going to hold and pin all of this to every single Democrat coming into this midterms, and you have now, DSA, you have now put life back in to the Republican Party, that maybe it won't be a total and complete wipeout in the midterms. It'll just be a wipeout. So, I don't have a solution for that. I don't think anybody does. It's the only thing that I might say, Democrats, for those that watch this, go on record and do everything you can to disown these people and say they are not part of the Democratic Party. They can say they're part of the Democratic Party. They're not. And let's not forget DNC. You do have the power to defund and push away some of these folks. At the end of the day, the DNC can defund them and take a huge, huge step against them, as can the state Democratic parties. And that's exactly what should be happening. There is no big, Democrats, there is no big tent with these kind of people. There is none. Don't put them in the party. Don't let them even pretend they're part of the party. Tell them to go join the Green Party or whatever, because the truth of the matter is, they'll fit in better, or better yet, you know what you do, Democrats? You join hands with Republicans and explain to them, maybe the United States of America isn't the kind of place for you. Let's all be a lot happier. You can go move somewhere, Russia, okay, China, you go right ahead. You'll be happier, and America will be happier. And don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. The problem that we have right now, we're going to jump to another discussion, is the DNC. So, for those that don't know and haven't seen the latest news with the DNC, their new chairman, what is his name? Martin. Last name's Martin. Is a disaster. He grabbed a cell phone, and I'm repeating off of multiple reports right now. Grabbed his cell phone, threw it at a junior aide, screaming at the junior aide. Well, the junior aide goes to HR, complains, puts in an incident report. Then the chairman has to go sit in HR and explain what happened. He apparently is so scared of his job that he doesn't want to meet with other people, because all he believes is the other administration folks, like the one that raises the money, is just out there to get him fired. So he doesn't want to meet with them. He doesn't want to talk with them. The Republican Party has raised, don't quote me exactly, but the RNC has raised $138 million last many months. Do you want to know how much the DNC has raised under Martin? Nothing. In fact, they're $2 million in the hole. So yeah, they probably brought some money in, but they're $2 million in the hole, because nobody wants to give any money to that shit show. Can you blame them? Now, you've got to balance this, because I think the Democrats as a whole have brought in somewhere around $3 billion. But the donors are going, I'm not going to give the money to the DNC. That is an absolute dumpster fire shithole. I'm going to give it directly to the states and to the candidates. And to those donors that are doing that, as somebody that founded and ran what would be the fifth largest political party in the country, Well done. That's where the money needs to go. You put too much money, especially in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. You put too much money into the national conventions and the national committees. Instead, that money needs to be going down to the states, especially the states, and the candidates. And that's how you make it successful. I'm not saying don't fund the DNC, it has its place. But if you're putting all of your money into the national committee instead of the states and the candidates, then don't be surprised when they do a whole lot of stuff that looks really, really dumb and wastes a whole lot of money doing things that might make them win some political points internally, but make no sense about winning races. Seen it. And people often ask me, Brian, you left the Republican Party. No, it left me. Well, Brian, why aren't you a Democrat? There you go. There's your answer. What a shit show. And this is a shit show, by the way, friends that are watching this particular shit show, it should be an absolute blowout for the Democrats. I don't think there has ever been a president in modern history, not even Nixon, as unpopular as Donald Trump. The economy is in the shitters, or it's heading to the shitters. If you're under, 25, you can't find a damn job, even though the unemployment is showing low. Their ability to get a job is disastrous. I think if you're under 25, we did a show on this, I think your ability to get a job right now, even if you graduate college, is a 10 or 11% unemployment. Underemployment is even more than that. So, you can't buy a steak anymore. It costs more than your car. You go to the grocery store, and you're skimping by and pulling out your little phone calculator and clipping coupons at Fred Meyer's and Kroger. And that's how bad this economy. And we're in an unpopular war that apparently we're losing. Thank you, Donald Trump. I mean, you add all this stuff together, in any other midterm, it would be an absolute blowout. Why isn't it? Because the Democratic Party is an absolute, at least at the top level, the Democratic Party is an absolute disaster. We've only got a couple of minutes. I am going to do one thing, and I should have done this to begin with. So again, I come out of the third party world, set it up, etc. People think that there is one big party, the Republican Party, and one big national party, the Democratic Party. Republican Party is a national party. The Democratic Party is a national party. Those two parties run the elections for those states. That is not true. That is not how our system works. Lo and behold, I'm going to give you just a little bit of an education on why I'm saying some of the stuff that I'm saying. We do not have one national party. You have a national committee. That's the DNC in this case, or the RNC. And you have 50 other PACs. Call them committees. You can call them state parties. 50 others. I'm just counting the 50 United States ones. And that's what makes up a party. The national committees don't get to tell the states what to do. They do put a lot of funding into them. But at the end of the day, those are independent PACs. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, and we'll deep dive this in another episode, because I think there's a lot of things and a lot of people that don't understand how our constitutional republic is set up. But the reason I bring this up is because that's why when I'm telling donors that might be listening to this, put the money in the state parties, put the money in the candidates, and don't fuck around with the big national committees on either side if you really want it to make a big impact. Okay, there you go. Okay, last thing for the day, and we will shut it down. Quote, Trump administration urges Supreme Court to allow order targeting mail-in voting to proceed for now before the midterm. So I'm going to read this one again. The Trump administration is urging the Supreme Court to allow the executive order targeting mail-in voting to proceed for now before the midterms. Okay, remember what I just said to you just a second ago about how states run, you don't have one big national party. It's actually 50 plus one, the plus one being the national committee. How we have 50 plus one parties that make up the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and they are independent. Okay, they choose to associate with each other. So why is that important on what we just read? Because what Trump is trying to do is to take control of how the states run and manage their elections. In this case, it would be mail-in voting. That's predominantly a blue state thing. We do it in Washington State, where I'm from. I believe California does it. I actually thought that Florida did it too, but and I lived there for years. I don't know why I can't remember if they did mail-in. But the point is to target the folks in the states and telling them how they're going to run their elections. And he's doing this for one reason, and one reason only. There is no fraud of any size and level in mail-in voting. I've lived in this state since 2014. Okay, it works. It doesn't screw up. Yeah, things are going to happen. Yeah, there's going to be some fraud, but there's going to be some fraud anyway. And there has never ever been a single court case, one, that showed that there was enough fraud to even come close to overturning an election. So why is he doing this? To suppress, number one, to suppress voter turnout for the Dems. Number two, to make a plausible, although arguable, case that the reason that Republicans got destroyed in this year's midterms is because the Democrats cheated and they were fake votes and it was fraudulent. Now, where does that go? Could be Grandpa screaming at the clouds again, making a fuss, tweets, all the usual shit that he does. Or it could be a real move to count the election, the midterm elections this year, as fraudulent and to push Mike Johnson to say no. We're not going to let the folks that have won congressional Democrats that have won in these states. We're not going to let them take the seats. Not going to let them do it. Not going to admit them. And that way, Republicans and MAGA keeps their very slim majority. And that's how we go into a constitutional crisis. Watch it closely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. If you leave me a comment if you like what I talk about. Again, I'm raw. I don't have a problem using profanity, telling you exactly what I think. It is the no bullshit, no bull political arena, and I make sure it is that way. Got to make a decision if I'm going to keep doing every once in a while doing these by myself, or we're just going to go back to a consistent larger group. Let me rephrase that. We're always going to have the large groups. We're always going to have the back and forth. That's not going to change. But if you kind of like me breaking some of this stuff down for you and watching it, let me know. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe we'll have a little sideshow once a week or twice a week with me breaking some of this stuff down and telling you why both political parties suck. All right. So if you have watched this, thank you. I don't know where you're watching it from, whether it be X or YouTube, or it could be Facebook, or it could be TikTok. I know we're broadcasting live everywhere. Do me a favor. Go over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Press like, leave me a comment. I'll read it out on the air. I don't care. It's all for fun, and it's supposed to be informative too. But I'll read it out. We'll talk about it on air, or we may talk about it as a very large group on air. If you're watching it on X, press like, share it. Follow the Noble Media Group on X. Same thing if you're on Facebook, or if you're on Twitch, or what other social media platform you're watching. Give us a follow. Share it. Give us a hard time if we're screwing something up. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. The No Bull Political Arena is on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us and your host a follow.
Hey everybody, this is Sophia Nelson. Follow me at I am Sophia Nelson on every one of my social media platforms.
I'm Bill O'Reilly, and you can reach me at Twitter at WFBOR.
Hey, this is TJ. Follow me on X or Twitter at TJ McCormack.
This is Brian Mistro, and you can follow me on X at Brian_Mistro or follow along on Facebook at Brian.Mistro.
A No Bull Media Group member.